In a previous video, I talked about negative programming from early experiences and the distorted thoughts that they create for you that you can get hung up on. I'm going to give you some tools to help you deal with these thoughts. I'm Dr. Tracy Marks, a psychiatrist, and I make mental health education videos. These negative stories can create a lot of shame. And what's shame? Shame is feeling flawed, damaged, or inept. Some people use criticism to shame others. I talk a little bit about this in my video on the importance of narcissism or self-love. If you don't have a basic sense of self-worth, criticism becomes damaging instead of being simply unfavorable feedback. So similarly, when you have been programmed to have a negative appraisal of yourself, like feeling unworthy, it doesn't matter what someone says or doesn't say, you feel that way about yourself at baseline. And that feeling of inadequacy shapes the decisions that you make, the company you keep, and the kinds of opportunities for which you make yourself available. But these negative stories can also create a lot of anxiety and self-doubt. So when you feel locked into these repetitive thoughts that are creating distress for you, here are 2 steps toward getting control over those thoughts. The first step is to pull back and observe the thoughts. What does that mean? There's different ways that you can do this using visualizations. One type of visualization is using the character technique. You visualize a funny character saying the thought. You could imagine a comedian saying it, or someone performing it as an opera piece.
If you really cared about people, you wouldn't care about making money. Not at all.
You might say, well, that's stupid. Yes, exactly. And so are my thoughts, because they're not fact. They're my distorted conclusions that I draw based on my own negative programming. Projecting your thoughts out of your head helps you reframe them and look at them more objectively. You want to hear them sound differently. Another type of visualization is you imagine writing your thoughts on a piece of paper, folding it up, and putting the paper in a trash bin that gets dumped. If you have trouble visualizing this, you can carry it out. Another way to disrupt the momentum of your spiraling thoughts is to attribute the thoughts to your mind as if your mind is another person. Then you thank your mind for thinking that. So you could say out loud to yourself, "No one understands me." "Oh, right. Thanks, mind. You're on that one again." It's like you're trivializing the thoughts by acknowledging that it's not something that you believe in your soul to be truth. It's just this thought that your mind decides to place in front of you for consideration. And it's up to you how much consideration you decide to give it. The second step is to distract yourself from them. So you've loosened the chokehold that they had on you, but now you want to make them go away. And there's lots of ways to do this. One is by replacing them with coping statements. And these would be pre-made thoughts that you can use or you can fall back on when you start ruminating on these negative thoughts about yourself. And you want to have them ready so that it's like a reflex that you can just say without having to conjure them up. You want to create them when you're not in a state of distress or negative thinking. Write them down in a journal, put them on your phone, have easy access to them. If you use them enough, you may not need to read them, you can just say them. You want to make them sound like your own voice though, so it's convincing. But here's some examples to get you started. My emotions do not reflect reality. I'm allowed to struggle. It's okay not to be okay. I don't have the answer, but I can tolerate uncertainty. I accept who I am while I continue to improve myself. This is an important concept because self-improvement is a good thing, but someone with less self-confidence can feel like their current existence doesn't really count, and it's not until they reach a certain level that they feel that their presence is valid. And this means that you're not thriving in the moment, and that kind of future-driven existence breeds anxiety and worry. The key is to accept whatever state you're in at any given time while welcoming change whenever it comes. It's also important to be flexible with your expectations for yourself. I saw a cool quote that said, "Be patient with yourself. Nothing in nature blooms all year." So for you, on the path to self-improvement, don't expect big gains continuously. If this is part of your negative self-talk, expecting to be blooming all the time, then a coping statement for you could be, "I am enough just as I am." Another distraction technique is using grounding exercises. A popular one is the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. This is where you name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and take 1 deep, slow breath. Other exercises are counting backwards from 100, place a cool cloth on your face or wrists, or splash cold water on your face. Drink a glass of water or a cup of tea slowly and mindfully. Mindful drinking means that you're paying careful attention to how the activity affects all of your senses. So for example, as I drink the tea, I take a mental note of how the warm cup feels in my hand, how the tea smells, how dark it is, how it tastes. Can I feel the warm liquid move down my chest and into my stomach? So I'm not drinking and checking my Instagram feed. I'm only focused on the experience of drinking the tea. 3 more grounding techniques. The elastic band technique. Wear an elastic band on your wrist, and when you feel your thoughts spiraling or intense emotions, snap the band against your wrist. Focusing on your breath is another grounding technique. But instead of simply noticing that you're breathing, take specific note of how the air moves in and out of your nostrils. Or you can pay attention to the movement of your chest or your abdomen. The last grounding technique I want to mention is focusing on colors. Pick a color and then look around the room and notice all the objects that have that color. Pick another color and do the same thing. What's the most common color in the room? For each of these exercises, you would do them until you feel more settled and the distress has passed. So here's what I've taught you today. When you feel distress, usually there's a combination of emotions and thoughts associated with the emotions. The emotions are real reactions to the thoughts that are usually distorted in some way. And here's what you can do to break the cycle of ruminating over these thoughts and spiraling into an emotional black hole. First, diffuse the intensity of the experience by using visualizations to pull you out of the moment so that you can evaluate your thoughts. This breaks the negative momentum and gives you a chance to look more objectively at what's going on. Second, use coping statements and grounding exercises to distract yourself from the thoughts and emotions. If you didn't already watch the video on negative emotional programming, go watch it. And if you identify a story that you use, try some of these techniques. See you next time.